Good afternoon, everybody. Wonderful to have you all here in our 4th of July celebration. My name is Chef Emily, and today we're going to be making some simple sides that kind of complement the more standard 4th of July kind of BBQ that is often, a part of our celebratory lives. So I wanted to offer a couple of things that they keep really well. And especially, often you go to a 4th of July celebration and there's coleslaw sitting out on a hot table, and we know that has dairy in it. Maybe that's not the best choice when it comes to food safety. So I'm going to teach you a dairy-free coleslaw. I'm also going to make a baked feta pasta. And this is a really tasty dish that can be served hot straight from the oven or cold, whichever you prefer. You can keep it in the fridge until the last minute and serve it that way. And then our third recipe is a watermelon granita, which I don't know about you, but these past hot days, my body just is craving that cold watermelon, right, to cool us down. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Elena is one of our panelists, and she's going to be reading your questions. So if you have questions throughout our presentation, please put them into the chat box. She'll be able to see them and read them to me, and that way we can make sure that we answer everything that you've got on your mind. So thanks so much again. And everybody should have gotten a packet of recipes. If you didn't get a packet, don't worry. I'll send it to folks after class as well. So I want to get started right away with the baked feta pasta. So this is sort of a recipe that took the internet by storm a few months ago. And I thought, gosh, that sounds so good, but there's just not enough vegetables in there for me. So I bumped up the veggies. We're going to add some Swiss chard and lots of basil and some garlic as well. So the type of pasta I'm using today is a whole wheat penne. And of course, there are more benefits to whole wheat pasta than regular pasta. If you look at the nutrition facts on the side here, you'll notice that whole wheat pasta tends to have a lot more protein because it contains the entire grain. And it also contains a lot more fiber. So your dietary fiber is 5 grams of fiber for 2-ounce serving. So that's almost 20% of your daily value. So definitely whenever possible, if you don't mind whole wheat, go for that. If you're gluten-free, go for your favorite gluten-free pasta. There's so many great ones out there that are still very healthy for you. There's some that are made with brown rice, some that are made with quinoa, some that are made with a mix. I tend to avoid the gluten-free pastas that are just made with corn. I don't find that they taste very good, and I find that they're not as nutrient dense as some of the other ones out there. So that's something to be on the lookout for when you're looking for your gluten-free pastas. They also have, of course, the lentil pastas, if you're into those. The bean pastas, those are great options as well. So you can make this with any kind of pasta you like. I saw something pop up in the chat before I jump in. Alita, did we have a question?
Oh, not a question, but I think it was a good comment from Eve that okay. People wanted to put something in the chat. They have to go down to the change from all panelists to all panelists and attendees, what I had said earlier, okay, so that everybody can see it. So thank you, Eve.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Ian. Really appreciate you your tech support today. So this is a new format. We're trying out the webinar format. So thank you so much for adjusting with us as we, learn and grow from our Zoom experiences. So diving right in here, you'll notice that I have a block of feta cheese and a sprinkling of kind of medium cherry tomatoes. And this is the easy thing. We're just going to pop it into the oven. So my oven is hot. It's just at 400. So preheat your oven ahead of time when you get this started. Place your block of feta right in the middle there. I like to add a little bit of white wine. I just find that it gives that nice acidity and flavor. And then we're going to drizzle with olive oil. Now, remember, this is a 1/4 cup of each. And remember that feta is very, very salty. So you don't need to add salt to this dish if you don't want to. I've got some red pepper flakes here. I like to just kind of sprinkle these over the block of feta. It looks really pretty and it'll cook right in. So let's get that started because that needs to cook for about 30 minutes until the feta is kind of melted and browned. So we'll start our stopwatch, okay? While that's cooking, we can prepare the remaining ingredients. We've got some garlic, so you can use the side of your knife, press down, crack those skins off. Garlic responds to how you treat it. So if you crush it and mince it and puree it and all the rest, it's going to have a stronger taste than if you were to simply slice it. So if you're not a huge garlic fan, I love the flavor of garlic, but for some folks, it's a little intense. You have options, right? You can, just cut, not crush it and just do more of like a slicing motion, slicing action, get the skin off and just slice it. I'll show you how to do that. Another alternative is you can always blanch your garlic. That's going to take some of the edge off of it as well. So if you wanted to get a pot of boiling water, pop the garlic in there for a few minutes and then take it out and let it cool down. You can keep your blanched garlic in the refrigerator anytime you need garlic and you just don't want as strong of a taste. So I'm just going to go ahead and slice these up. Nice thin slices, as thin as you can get them. You can also use a mandolin for this if you are feeling brave. I love my mandolin. I think it's a great tool. It slices things really, shreds and slices things really thinly. And a lot of mandolins are sold with a guard, so you don't have to really, worry so much about hurting yourself. Questions or comments?
Yes, there are two questions, Chef Emily. Is there a feta that is like maybe low sodium?
Yes, so you can probably find it. Well, I'm not too sure about low sodium. I've definitely seen reduced fat feta cheeses, but in terms of sodium, it just occurred, as I was saying, as the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, I don't know if that's low sodium, but it's low fat. You could definitely find low fat fetas, and I wonder maybe those are low sodium as well. So I'm not too sure. If anybody has thoughts about where to find a low sodium feta, please feel free to add that into the chat.
And there was a question about the temperature on the oven. On your recipe, it says 400 degrees.
Correct. Yes, that's what I'm using. 400. Did I misspeak? I may have misspoke.
No. The person was asking the question, but I'm looking at the recipe and it says 400 degrees.
Yes, it says 400. Correct. Yeah, thanks everyone. So there's the sliced garlic. We're going to save that for later. We're going to get our greens ready. So as I mentioned, the original recipe doesn't have anything green in it at all. And you guys know, many of you know me by now. I can't have a dish unless it has something green in it. That's kind of my rule of thumb. So I've got some Swiss chard here. You could also use spinach. The recipe calls for spinach, but I had this growing in the garden. So let's use what we have, right? I'm going to chop the stems off. So I'm not going to use those in this recipe. You could chop them up nice and small and saute them and then add them to your omelet or your scrambled eggs or something if you wanted to preserve the stems. They are edible. They're loaded with fiber. They have lots of nutrients. There's a little more green on here. Let me see if I can just peel that off. So yeah, feel free to use the stems however you like. And then I just kind of bunch this up and slice it down across. Always important, many of you know, to have a good sharp knife at your disposal here. If your knife isn't sharp, you're going to crush your greens instead of slicing them, and your greens aren't going to be very happy or look very pretty. So that's it, straight across, and then a couple chops this way, and you've got your greens ready to add in. All right, that's pretty much it for this recipe. We're going to add some basil at the end as well, so let's prep that up. So with basil, if I'm getting basil from the garden, I don't wash it because basil is best manipulated when it's dry, because otherwise it can get, a little bruised and stuff. So I especially if it's fresh basil from the garden, I don't really bother washing it. I just, I just make sure there aren't any bugs or dirt or critters, on it. So just do a little thorough look over it, right? Just like make sure that nobody's hiding out in the folds of these beautiful green leaves. And then you can stack them up like a deck of cards and do a chiffonade, or you can just do a rough chop. I'll show you both. Just be gentle with basil because it does bruise very easily. And when it bruises, I feel like the flavor is not as great. It gets like, I don't know, a little bitter in my opinion. So stack them up like a deck of cards. Roll like a burrito, and then slice to make your chiffonade. And I did this the other day, and it's just this, you know, smell of fresh basil is so lovely and powerful. So I want to transport you all. If you want to even just close your eyes for a moment and imagine freshly picked basil. And if you just take a deep inhale, it's almost like you can smell it, right? It's really, really close. I sometimes find that the power of my imagination when it comes to smells in particular, it's really quite effective. I can, you know, close my eyes and kind of imagine lavender, and then all of a sudden I'll start to kind of almost smell lavender. It's really an amazing experience. Maybe that's just me. Is that just me, or is anybody else able to do that? I have my own little sensory smell experience. All right, so there's the basil. We're gonna set that off to the side. I'm boiling some salted water here for the pasta. And while everything else is roasting, we're gonna set this off, set off our Swiss chard, our garlic, and our basil, pop those to the back while everything else finishes up. Okay, any questions about this recipe? So very easy.
There are no questions, but there's a comment from Valerie that says that she can smell, she loves the smell of tomato leaves.
Yeah, oh, okay, so good. Thank you, Valerie, for making me feel like I'm not the only one that can smell things when I bring them into my mind. All right, so we'll set these back here, and let's get ready with our second recipe. So you can see everything is ready to go, mise en place, right? Put into place. And this is going to be the coleslaw. Oh, a few fun facts about tomatoes and why we're using them in this feta bake recipe. The color and the natural red color and that bright kind of pigmentation, that's a high expression of an antioxidant that's called lycopene. And that is a carotenoid that serves to actually protect your brain and your heart. So tomatoes are really powerful. And when you cook them, especially that lycopene, that antioxidant, is heightened. It's actually one of the only, you know, foods that becomes more nutrient dense when it's cooked. I'm going to be doing a class on nutrient density later this month, and I'm going to be talking about all the different kinds of cooking techniques and how they affect foods and things. So if you're interested in that, feel free to tune in. The Swiss chard is very high in fiber, of course, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, folic acid, iron, calcium. I mean, our leafy greens are one of the most important foods for us to eat, I think. People who are at risk for developing kidney stones, however, should speak to their doctor about including spinach or Swiss chard or deep leafy greens, deep dark leafy greens in their diet, because they're very high in oxalates. So just keep that in mind. All right, want to make sure my blender doesn't look like it's plugged in here. I'm playing tricks on myself today. Anyone else have those days where you just play tricks on yourself? All right, so we're going to start blending up our sauce. This is our dairy-free coleslaw. It's pretty simple. You take your cashews. These are raw cashews, and they've been soaked overnight in cold water, left in the refrigerator, and now you can see they're nice and soft and plump. If you don't have time to soak them overnight, you take some boiling water, pour them over the raw cashews, and then let them sit for 20 to 30 minutes. They'll plump up that way too. All right, so let's add the cashews. I like to do it overnight because it's just easy to, you know, pop it in the fridge and forget about it. We're gonna add some mustard, some Dijon mustard, about 2 tablespoons, some maple syrup, about 1 tablespoon, a little bit of salt in here as well. You don't need much because mustard's salty. And then we're gonna add some freshly squeezed lemon juice. So I'm gonna hold my hand underneath the lemon and just squeeze and let the seeds fall into my palm and let the juice run through. This is the quickest way to squeeze a lemon. If you want to use your tools or your gadgets, feel free to do that too. It might be easier because then you don't have to worry about accidentally letting a lemon seed drop in there, right? So give it a good squeeze. Sometimes I kind of push my thumb in to scrape from the bottom and press out. and I use the edge of the blender or whatever I'm, squeezing this into to kind of squeeze those side membranes in there. Perfect. I think I got a little seed in there. There's always one that makes its way in. Okay. Got it. All right. And then, citrus seeds are edible. So worst case scenario, if one falls in, there's nothing wrong with that. They actually sell citrus seed extract, which is supposed to be good for your immune system or something like that. I don't know that there's any science behind that, but so we're going to add a clove of garlic. Take that skin off. And you can, of course, use your, chopped minced garlic from the fridge if that's what you prefer. This one's a little tricky. I guess I'm not the only one playing tricks on myself today. The garlic is too. Okay, got the skin. In goes the clove. And then that's it for this sauce. We're going to add a little bit of water to this as it's going. This is going to be our creamy base. Go ahead, Alita.
You mentioned the maple syrup, but did you put it in?
Yes, I did. It was in with the mustard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had it in a little bowl. So I had the maple syrup, the mustard, and the salt all together in that little bowl. Yeah. But thank you for your attentiveness.
Yes.
Thank you. So here's some water just to kind of thin it to the right consistency. We'll start it on low, blend it up. Add a little bit of water. And then you can crank it up more. You can add a little olive oil to this if you want to make it even richer. It's kind of optional. I always like it. Add a little water. And you want this to be really, really smooth. I'm going to turn this all the way up. And just let it run for a minute. We get our cabbage in. So starting to break down, I don't see any like fish and pieces of toppings in there. It's getting to be a super silky texture. If you don't have a high-powered blender, you can make. I made this in the NewYork before. That little, tabletop blender that works out pretty well. Okay, and perfect. This is so super creamy. All right, I'll dump out that extra water because we don't need it. And I just want to show you all the texture of the sauce because it's like velvety. It's really, really nice. So you can use this, for a coleslaw, or if you just want like a super creamy salad dressing or something, that has that kind of velvety taste and doesn't have any dairy in it. This is a great, great base to know about. Questions or comments? How's everyone doing today?
I guess we're just really watching. No questions, but watching.
Everybody's watching. Okay. I'm glad everyone's paying attention, taking fastidious notes, I'm sure. Okay. So just look at how beautiful and creamy this is, right? Without any cream whatsoever, without any dairy, you've got that kind of dairy-like, it's almost like it has creme fraiche in it or something. It's kind of got that same velvety texture. All right, let's set that off to the side. Let's get our cabbage ready. Now, of course, you can use these outer leaves. This one is a bit damaged, but if you wanted to, you can use it as a serving bowl. So if you're not going to, have your coleslaw or the outer leaves of your cabbage, you can put your coleslaw in there and it makes life like a nice presentation. This one's a little damaged too, so you can just keep going until you kind of get the good leaves. But yeah, they are edible. These outer leaves are completely edible. So if you had good ones, you could eat them. This one looks like a set of ears. Hi, everyone. All right, set those back there. And we're gonna just cut this in half. Feel free to buy the shredded coleslaw that's, you know, the mix with the carrot and the cabbage and everything like that. Cut back on your prep time. Feel free to do that. I just wanted to show everyone how to break it down. So I start by trimming the bottom and then trying to cut down the middle. It was a little hard to do that, right? And then look how pretty is that red cabbage. I mean, it's just one of nature's miracles. Okay. I'm not going to do all of it because that would be a lot of cabbage. Even I'm always surprised by even how, you know, a small amount, like a little cabbage half, will make a big fluffy bowl. It's just amazing. It's just like, it's truly the, I guess, the veggie that keeps on giving. So a couple things you could do here. You could cut it down this way, down lengthwise, and shred it across this way. Or you can cut it across the fatter half down the middle, right? And shred it across the other way. So you can shred either way. Some people feel like they get a better shred if they cut it down the thicker part, but I think it has more to do with how thinly you cut. So get a mandolin or a super thin knife, a super sharp knife, and try to cut these really as thinly as you can. This is always a test for me of how sharp my knife is. A really sharp knife would just glide right through, right? So you just have to keep on top of your knives, sharpen them regularly. And I often get the question, well, how often should I sharpen my knife? Well, it depends on how much you use it. Given how much I use my knife, I sharpen it every week, usually on Fridays. So I have one more day to go. Was there a question, Alita? I thought I heard you beginning to say something. I'm sorry.
There is a question and a comment. So John wants to know if you think the coleslaw salad or a macaroni salad.
Could you repeat that, Alita? I didn't hear you very well.
Yeah, sure. So John wants to know, could you use the base, your dressing, for a macaroni salad?
That's a really interesting question, John.
Yes.
I mean, I'm tempted to say yes. Yes.
Yes. It's a nutritional yeast, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would say if you wanted it to be a cheesier flavor, yeah, Alita, I love that idea. Add some nutritional yeast, and then you've got a really nice cheesy flavor to add it to get in there without the cheese. Yeah, it's really yummy.
Yes, it sounds yummy. I can taste it now. So Denise had a comment that she always takes notes because you always have such fantastic tips.
Oh, Denise, that's so kind. Thank you. You guys are a kind group, truly. Very lucky. All right, we've got our shredded cabbage. I forgot my bowl. Want to get a nice big bowl where you can toss this all together, right? And look how much that little half made. I mean, it's really very impressive, this stuff. Again, go for the stuff that's in a bag already chopped up. If that makes it so much easier for you to make this dish, do what is easiest. If it means that you're eating cabbage and carrots at the end of the day, I don't care how it happens. So there's the cabbage. We'll set that off to the side. Let's get our carrots ready. So for the carrots, you can go ahead and peel them if you want sort of a cleaner product. So the way that I peel carrots is I hold them by the end and I brace the tip on the cutting board. And I actually don't move my peeler. I move my left hand. So I rotate the left hand, twist, while the right hand peels, right? So I'll show that again. Hold with the left hand, peel with the right, peel, rotate, and they're just little micro rotations, right? Because you don't want to, rotate so far that you miss a whole strip. So carrots, you do not have to peel them. If you like the peel is, quite nutritious. The peel is a little bit bitter, it has a little bit of a bitter taste. So I know some folks are particularly sensitive to bitter tastes. And if you're one of those people, you may want to consider peeling your carrots. If you're not, leave the peel on, whichever you prefer. I have no preference. I think that, both are great. I'm going to chop off the tops, chop off the little ends here. And then we're going to go ahead and put these in the food processor to shred, just to make life really easy, right? This is like the lazy coleslaw. So go ahead and get your food processor ready. Get that shredder attachment in there. All right, pop the lid on, and you're ready to shred. This is a great attachment. Goes right in. You can add other veggies to your coleslaw as well if you like. You know, the most traditional is the cabbage and the carrot. I think those are sort of what we see universally. But you know, if you like peppers, something, you know, just make sure they're crunchy vegetables. You don't want to add anything that's going to be kind of like watery in there. You know. Okay, let's get all the carrot we can. Questions, comments? Anyone want to share their favorite coleslaw recipe tips or anything that they like to put in their coleslaw that we haven't touched upon yet? So I'm just chopping up these little carrot bits that get stuck around the edge of the food processor at the top because I like to use as much as possible. It's like half a carrot around there. Didn't even suspect that, right? And let's go ahead and add the shredded carrot right in. I think I saw something come up in the chat there.
Yes, so Denise says that peeling the carrots for less bitter taste is one of the best pieces of advice she got from you. She likes to cook for nutritional purposes, but no nutrition if not eating. So.
Right, and that's the thing, right? It's like if you're not going to eat the carrot because it tastes bitter to you, well, try peeling it and eating it because at least you're still going to get something, right? You might not get everything that the carrot has to offer, but you're still going to get a lot. All right, a few last things. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, so Valerie says that she adds apples and kohlrabi. And
that's a great addition.
Somebody else says that they use fresh dill and scallions. Beautiful.
So instead of scallions, the recipe calls for scallions, but instead of scallions, we're going to use chives. But I'm just going to check on my feta here because it's been, the water's boiling for the pasta. So this is the only tricky part about this recipe, back to the pasta recipe here for a minute, is that this cooks for about 12 to 15 minutes, right? Oh, wait, no, it says cook pasta in 4 quarters. So 11 minutes on this pasta. And the feta is for 30 minutes. So you just kind of have to time it correctly. So the feta's been in for 20, and then this is going to bring the feta to the end of its cooking time as well. So you want to time everything. Make sure that your water is really boiling. You've got a rolling boil going. And if it's not a rolling boil, then you want to make sure that you stir the noodles until it starts to boil, because otherwise they're going to stick together. So bring your water really up to a rolling boil. Add the pasta in, and I did add salt to the cooking water. That's just my preference. I think, if you're trying to avoid salt or minimize your salt, don't add salt to your pasta water. It's just not going to be as salty, which is your goal. So definitely you can make that adjustment if you'd like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start in on these chives. So I like scallions as well, and that's actually what the recipe calls for. When I wrote it, I put scallions in, but I didn't have any scallions in the garden, and I had chives. So I just thought, let's add the chives instead. All right, so you've got this beautiful kind of oniony flavor. I like the idea of the kohlrabi, Valerie. I feel like a lot of people don't really know how to use kohlrabi, and it can be eaten raw or cooked, and it's a really yummy food. So that's a really great idea. If you wanted to use the kohlrabi, you would also just shred it up like a carrot, or you could do like super, super thin slices if you wanted to try that. Okay, we've got our herbs. We're going to add some nuts and seeds for more nutrient density in our very special coleslaw. Look how pretty this is. Look at those colors. Isn't that gorgeous? So vibrant. Of course, we're going to pour some white sauce all over that, so that's going to change. Let's add some celery seed. I like the flavor of celery seed in coleslaw. About a teaspoon. This is all optional. Make it the way you want to in your own home. I've got some hemp seeds here. This is going to add some protein. So it's also going to look pretty. And then I have some toasted slivered almonds. right? So these are the slivered almonds are the ones that have this kind of like little crescent shape and they don't have skin on them. I prefer these slivered to the sliced. The slivered hold up better in a salad. They will, they don't just like fall apart. And the sliced ones I find just kind of disintegrate. And I like that these are toasted. They're gonna add that flavor in. They're also gonna add a textural crunch. Oh, we have a lot of crunchy things in here. Questions or comments?
Just that, so she loves the idea of dip.
I'm so sorry, Alita. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with your audio today. Would you repeat that?
So yeah, just that Valerie says that she loves the idea of using dill. And actually, Christina says that every time I speak that you're blocked or something. So I don't know if that's something.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So when you speak, maybe it turns over to you. Thank you so much for letting us know. Yeah, that's really useful. See, I still see myself. So thank you for letting us know. We will have to work on that. All right. So I'm not going to do anything, Alita, when you speak, just in case.
Okay.
All right, so I added the sauce in there, and we're just going to go ahead and mix that all together, work the sauce into those veggies, and you're done. It's nice to let this sit for at least 30 minutes or so, just to allow the flavors to hang out, get to know each other. And look at this. I mean, it looks just like coleslaw. You would never suspect that it doesn't have tons of mayo in it, right? Or tons of, dairy. All right, and then I like to add those, kind of work that in and then add those slivered almonds at the end. Okay. So this is done. I'm gonna walk you through the watermelon granita because I did a lot ahead of time for that. I wanted you guys to have something that's like really light and refreshing and delicious. But I realized after I wrote the recipe and in preparation for the class today that a lot of the steps need to be done ahead of time. So I want to talk you through it because it's really yummy and it's definitely worth trying out. But it's a few steps, it's a little involved, even though it's only 2 ingredients, watermelon and lime juice. Sometimes the simplest things are, in disguise are more complicated. Okay, so look at that. Really nice. Get rid of this. And we're going to go ahead, check on our feta for a moment here and our tomatoes. Let's not forget about them in there. Been almost 30 minutes. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. So the feta is slightly brown. I'm just rotating the pan. I'm going to give it maybe 5 more minutes because what I'm noticing is that not all the tomatoes have kind of blistered and popped up. So that's what you want, is you want them to kind of start to fall apart because that's going to be our pasta sauce. Okay. So while that's going, you have a few more minutes on the pasta. I will walk you through the granita. I will see if there's another question before I do that. I think I saw something pop up on the screen there. All good? Okay, go ahead, Alita.
There's a question. What other seeds can you use?
Instead of the hemp seeds and the celery seed, I mean, the celery seed adds a distinct flavor of celery, which you could also add if you wanted to chop up some celery. You could do that. It's a great way to use up celery. Sometimes you buy a whole head of celery and you only need like 2 stalks. So feel free to use it that way. Instead of hemp seeds, so, I'm just adding the hemp seeds for a little bit of protein and some, some healthy omega fats. You can leave them out. You can add pepitas, the toasted pumpkin seeds would be good. What else could you use? I feel like sesame would be maybe too strong of a taste. Sunflower could work, if they're toasted and shelled sunflower seeds. Poppy seed could be interesting. So I don't think there's anything that will really not work except for maybe the sesame that has such a strong taste that it could detract from the other flavors in the coleslaw. Anything else?
So Denise is saying that she can't wait to try this recipe on her hubby who loves mayo, but at least this one, cashews. But it seems that every time I speak, you disappear from the screen. That's
Yeah, I think that must be something about the Zoom webinar format. So I will go ahead and look into that before our next class. Not to worry. Yeah.
Then Valerie says, cooking in advance for a party is always a good idea and very helpful. She also said, what about pistachios?
Oh yeah, I could see pistachios working out well. Yeah, I could see that being yummy. I love pistachios. Anything with a pistachio. Thank you. Okay, so the watermelon granita, I want to make an adjustment to this recipe, and I'm actually going to type it out and resend it to you after class, because I realized that the watermelon shouldn't be frozen before it's blended. So it should first be scooped out of the rind, then thrown into the food processor or blender and basically liquefied. Then you pour that into a shallow dish, and I'll show you what mine looks like. Something that can fit in the freezer. So you're gonna have to maybe clear out some freezer space, right? So there it is. So this is useful, this kind of like shallow metal dish that's light. So you pour, imagine if you've got that, piece of watermelon, about a pound of watermelon is going in there, blend it up, liquefied, pour it into here. And this is where it's simple, but you just have to time it, right? So let it freeze for 30 minutes, and then you get your fork and you scrape. You scrape the frozen stuff. And you're just gonna keep scraping, right? It might need more than 30 minutes for the initial freeze, depending on the strength of your freezer. So you scrape, 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 give it a little shake, and then put it back into the freezer for another 30 minutes. And you do that until the entire product is, frozen, and it kind of has this texture of, see if I can show you this better. Almost like a slushy texture, right? And you can use, you can enjoy this just on its own, or if you're having a, boozy 4th of July, you could use it sort of as a base for, a cocktail or something like that. I really think it's very refreshing on its own. So that's my watermelon granita. So I'm going to adjust that recipe and get it back to you. But do I have any questions about that before I drain my pasta?
No questions. It's just comments about this new format and see or not see.
Yeah, I know. It's going to take a little adjusting for all of us. So we'll get there, though. I think we will get there. So let's check here. Our pasta feels still a little al dente. So how do you know if your pastas are done? You can have a look on the inside and see, right? If there's a lot of kind of white still, I don't know if you guys can see that very well. It's like a little white ring on the inside. It's very, very slight. That tells me that it's still not quite done. So it needs a little bit longer. But in the meantime, our feta is almost done. So let's flip back to that recipe if you guys are following along here. And we're on step 4. So we are cooking our pasta. We have to save about a cup of the pasta water. So have a measuring cup or something, ready. And actually you can do this before you drain it if you want to, because sometimes I forget, you just start draining and then all the water's gone out. So get your measuring cup, tip it in there, and save your cooking water right before you even drain it. It's a good thing to do. All right, and then we're going to remove the feta from the oven. We're going to add that garlic and spinach right away. So I've got my garlic and spinach ready. I've got my basil here too. We're going to stir everything together. It's going to make a really nice creamy sauce. And then we're going to toss the pasta and basil, and you're done. So it's kind of like, you want to make sure that everything is ready, everything's in place, right? It's almost like a theater performance. Every actor needs to have its spot, So let's get them ready. The pasta water is only if needed, So the feta might thicken up, and if you find that the sauce is getting too thick, that's when you can start to add that hot pasta water and kind of thin it out to be the right texture. Okay, I want to make sure I have a clear stage here for you all to see. Okay, I think we're ready. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for, the feta and tomato bake. Have a look. Smells so good. Wow. Okay, so I just want you all to have a look and see. Okay, you can see the feta is beautifully brown. The tomatoes are blistering. Their juices are coming out. Life is good. We're going to go ahead and add the garlic right away because we want it to kind of get some of the heat. You could also throw the garlic in with the tomatoes if you want to cook it, cook it a little bit more. I kind of like a little bit of an edge on my garlic, but up to you. Again, if you're garlic sensitive, add it with the tomatoes, kind of halfway. I wouldn't add it at the beginning, add it kind of halfway through the cooking. So let's say you're baking this for 30 minutes. You would do 15 minutes and then add your garlic and put it back in, right? So the garlic gets some, some cooking, but it's not going to burn because all the juices come out. Okay, let's add our, let's stir this up to make our sauce. Let's add our greens as well and just let everything kind of cook down and get united. And you got to keep moving it here so until it gets creamy. I don't know if you can all see this very well. I really want to make sure you don't miss this step. Right, maybe this is better. Okay, so you can see this feta tomato. It's making a super creamy sauce. It's really lovely. And we're ready to add that cooked pasta in now. Let's drain it. Okay. Toss that in, and you've got your pasta dish ready to go. Questions or comments? Woo, that's still hot.
Yes.
That's still hot.
Chris had a question about why is there a new format? And he felt that this is less interactive from other programs she's attended.
Okay, so I'm sorry, what was the first question?
Why is there a new format? We're using the webinar.
Why is there a new format? Because NYP requested that we all have the same uniform format. So we are, it's more of a request that we be in line with all of the other NYP formats. But, if we find that this is less interactive, and I hope that it's not, I hope that you can still, see the cooking and participate in questions and things. But please send me an email separately, and I'd love to hear more about your feedback and why you find it to be less interactive. That would be really helpful to me. So please let me know. All right.
And then
go ahead, Elena.
She mentioned that she's amazed by you. 4 things she's noticed. You don't taste while you prepare. You use no sink water. You use no paper towels. You save all food waste for composting. All the habits that she's working on, or he, I'm not sure.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah, I try, and it just comes with practice too, it really does. I usually don't taste while cooking because I find that it would, on camera, it wouldn't look so good for me to be sitting there eating and chewing. But I do taste a lot at home. I do kind of just make sure I'm on point as I cook. It's useful. So this is ready. This is gorgeous. And again, this can be served hot or cold. Just show you the final sauce. Right? How beautiful is that? Okay. So final questions and comments. We've made our coleslaw. We've made our granita. Our time is up. It's 12:45. We have our, all of our recipes are done. And now you can go out and have a fabulous 4th of July celebration full of healthy sides that, aren't going to leave you feeling uncomfortable at the end of the day. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much for bearing with our new format today. Certainly, it seems like we still have a lot of things to troubleshoot. So I will make sure that everything is better for next time. Thanks, everyone.